Welcome to another custom card video. In this one, I asked all of you to make cards that break the rules when it comes to deck building. As you can see here with Xander the Holy from Jay Ballister, this is a 5-mana 5/6 Paladin card with Divine Shield, and if your deck has no neutral cards, you can add holy spells from other classes. So as soon as you put this in your deck list when you're building your deck, the rules change based on Xander. As long as you don't add neutral cards, you can go into Priest and grab some holy spells from Priest to really bump up the crazy holy synergies that might be possible, some of the other holy synergy stuff that we've seen possible. And this is one of the many ways in this video cards are going to completely shatter how deck building works. And this is one of the more tame ones, I would say, but really thematic and awesome and fits both like the pure side of things and the holy synergy side of things. Priest is great to tap into, so it has this kind of dual class feel as well. So Xander was really one of the more elegant deck breaking cards in this video, but boy, we got a lot of really cool ones, so we're going to go through these pretty quickly. Like this one from Stellar Moose, it's Sparrow Cap, a 6-mana 5/5 for Rogue. It reads, when making your deck, if your deck has only common cards, select 5 treasures to add to your deck. Now, this would require some UI rework. There'd have to be some kind of like second collection panel that you could go in and add some treasures. But I love this idea. If you go for this popper build, only 1 legendary and a bunch of commons, then you get to add some crazy treasures potentially. Kind of skipping that middle step of Kazakhstan and instead just getting them dumped right into your deck, potentially drawing them early. But, you know, having a pretty big sacrifice along the way with having, on average, probably a lower quality deck because you're really limited to what it can include. Not only, you know, are common cards weaker than, say, legendaries on average, but you just don't have a lot of choices necessarily. But there might be ways to draw the treasures and like cheese some stuff out and do some big things. But I like that this encourages people who don't have crazy collections. They still might be able to have some fun, get some crazy high roll victories, and changing the rules when building a deck is pretty dang cool. So next up here, this one's really fun. Mirror Master Samuro from King Kuba, a 2-mana 1/4 with Rush and Taunt for Warrior. And it reads, when saving your deck, fill it with copies of this until it has 30 cards. So basically, if you think Mirror Master Samuro is a really good fit for your deck, you want to have 10 of these in your deck, you can. You can run 20 other cards and then 10 copies of Samuro. He's mirrored himself, which is a Samuro ability in both like Here's the Storm and Mercenaries, which is really cool. So very flavorful, A+ there. And it has some really intriguing deck building upsides too, because, you know, if you have like Rush and Taunt synergies and you think this is a really efficient Rush and Taunt minion, then boom, you can build a Rush deck with a lot of these. Or maybe you have like some Taunt hand buff stuff and know that you're going to have a great option with Mirror Master Samuro to make sure there's a lot of those in hand. But of course too, you know, if you draw 5 or 6 of these in a row, it can really wreck your curve. It might be hard to squeeze these things in for 2 mana, and they're not, you know, necessarily independently all that powerful. They don't do a lot necessarily as a base minion. But I like the idea that some synergies here exist, and it gives you some options. If these are the best 2-drops possible, maybe you just need like 4 of these or 6 of these if you don't have a great deck otherwise. And then, of course, if you're crazy, you can just run 30 Mirror Master Samuros. I don't know why you'd ever do that, but the possibility exists. That would be a fun challenge to try to win games with 30 Samuros. Moving on to Timebreaker Chromie here from Faroon, a 3-mana 3/5 neutral legendary. Deck building. Your deck may not include duplicates, so forced Highlander action here, but may include up to 3 cards from the past. So bringing back that Chromie style of before, but in this case you get to pick and choose your cards, which is obviously way cooler. You can maybe grab some things that open up synergies that otherwise wouldn't be possible. You could really surprise your opponents as well. It's like, oh my god, they have to be expecting cards from the entire history of Hearthstone, which, you know, you might argue that's not necessarily a great design aspect. It could be very punishing for new players, but at the same time, could be a lot of fun as well. And trying to build a deck, picking the 3 best old cards sounds like a real challenge, but I think it'd be a fun one to take on. Moving on here to Dr. Zamul from Sunbird 1002. It's a 3-mana 4/3 neutral legendary, and it reads, while deck building, minions added after this have Rush, but die after they attack. So let's talk about the ability here before we talk about the implications. It's pretty nice, of course, like death rattles and stuff. You don't care if they would die necessarily after they attack. You're just happy to have that immediate reactivity trade in your death rattle. You wanted it to die anyway, you get some upside. That is a very powerful effect, and perhaps maybe too powerful for the record, but I really like the implications of this design, the way it actually encourages you to think about how you build your deck, like not just the end result, but literally the steps, because when you add this, changes the impact of the cards. It's not based on like the mana costs in the list, it's based on when they were added. So, you know, if you want minions to not have rush and die immediately, you can do that. You can add those to your deck list first, then add Zamul, and then start adding in your death rattles, for instance. So it gives you this really extra care and attention to detail in how you put the cards into your deck, which is a whole extra layer of perhaps frustration. It might be kind of annoying to do that, but it'd be really fun to kind of work through what needs rush. Like, this doesn't have a death rattle, but maybe I want it to have rush because it has high attack. You could start to make those sorts of decisions. Now, I know this kind of breaks like deck codes and stuff. I'm not going to worry about that as a problem. It probably wouldn't really work in Hearthstone. Almost none of these actually will. I just like the idea of it a lot. So forget the world of deck codes and pretend Zamul is not both overpowered and game breaking, but I think there's something cool here baked into this idea with a few tweaks. So before we move on, let's talk about our sponsor for this video. It's Keeps. Yeah, if you didn't know, 2 out of 3 guys will experience some form of male pattern baldness by the time they're 35, and the best way to prevent hair loss is to do something about it while you still have hair left. And with Keeps, you can get treated right from home. You don't have to go to a doctor's office to get your prescription. It'll get mailed right to you, making life easy and giving you lots of time to play more Hearthstone. So if you're noticing that you're losing your hair, it's time to do something about it. For a limited time, you can go to keeps.com/Regis. That's my name. Or click the link in the description below to receive 50% off your first order. Moving on to Unstable Amalgaman. Love the name and art. From Tough One, 6-mana neutral hero card. You may craft your deck using any class's cards. Wow, that is obviously very broken. And to acknowledge that, Tough One gave you a very risky hero power here, because you're going to immediately play the Amalgaman, and then you're going to have this hero power that reads, "What did I do?" And it's passive, and you take 6 damage at the end of your turn. So you basically have 6 turns here to survive, thanks to the 6 armor from the Amalgaman. Now, that said, I actually don't think this is a big enough downside. There's some pretty crazy broken combos that might be possible if you can build your deck in certain ways. Number one, you could have like life gain and survivability to help negate this hero power, and then, you know, you can do broken stuff. We've seen this before in various game modes. You can add cards together that don't normally have to worry about balancing against each other. That can create some pretty absurd moments. Dual class opens that up a little bit, but this would open it up to the next level. So this would probably still be too good. I figure there's some aggro decks that would just have like perfect openers and just absolutely dominate you with high-powered early game minions and not really have to worry about the downside here necessarily, but a really fun idea. Maybe if you take up this downside or make it more actively punishing, there might be something cool here, but still, excellent flavor. Next up, here's Xavius the Duplicitous from Faroon, a 6-mana 3/7 demon, and this one's got deck building. Whenever you have 2 copies of a demon in your deck, add a third that does not count against your card total. So if you want to go for full-on demon synergies here, you can get 3 of each of the non-legendary demons in your deck. And that may sound like something that's not all that good necessarily, but what happens is you can really control the most powerful demons and make sure those are the things you're drawing very consistently. If you think about, say, like Dark Glare in the past, right? That would be one you'd probably want 3 of because it's like a build around. You want to make sure you hit your Dark Glares as reliably and as early as possible, and a card like Xavius would allow you to do that. Break the rules, change the rules, so you get really consistent results for your demons. And then if you didn't want, you know, too many of a demon, you might only have to run 1, so there's just kind of downside. Running 2 doesn't work, because if you have 2, you're going to get the third. So you've got this kind of balancing act here. It's like, man, do I really want 3 of those, or is 1 actually better to make sure I have a consistent result here? Getting the ones that are 3 to be more likely. Now, there also could be some worlds where if you have a ton of card draw, maybe just having a lot of demons in your deck is an upside. Usually you want smaller decks as opposed to bigger decks from a strategic standpoint, but there could be reasons in decks, especially in duels, I think, where having a lot of extra demons at the bottom of your deck and having a, essentially up to 14 extra cards in your deck could be something that's a goal in and of itself. Moving on here to Tabula Rasa from Nutter666. Bit of a blank slate card here. It's a 1 mana hero card, 5 armor, and it reads, you can only add this hero to your deck if it does not contain any class cards. So you're looking at a full-on neutral deck here for Tabula Rasa. Then you're going to draw that, and you're going to have this great turn 1 play, grab some armor, and pump this hero power study session, which will discover you a random classes card, in this case druid, but that might say mage, paladin, etc. And then it's going to cost 2 less. So basically, you get this hero power that sort of pays for itself with this discount, and you can even bank discounts for the future, and you get to pick your card each time you hit the button. So, we had that old Reno hero power getting Reno Quest hero power that gave you a random discounted card, but this case, discovering and getting from across classes, that might actually be something that's pretty cool and something you might want to do. And I just like the idea that you get to do this every game. It seems really, really fun. Little 5 armor to kick things off, and then just go with this hero power. That sounds awesome. And, having some neutral cards to fill in, you're probably not going to be too excited about those, but you can imagine a lot of scenarios where, spell synergies, those sorts of things add up when you start getting these, really cheap spells or cards in your hand. You might be able to create some pop-off scenarios. All right, next up here is Sargeras, the Dark Titan from Mace Lock, an 8 mana hero card. It reads, if the only creatures in your deck are demons, it can contain demons from any class. Now, right now, there's not probably a lot of demons across other classes, but you can imagine this coming along with a Burning Legion expansion or something, where there's extra demons available across classes, and then hopefully you'd have enough to build a compelling deck. And you can also complement with spells, of course. Then the hero pair here is Call the Legion, draw a card. If it's a demon, summon it. So you'd want big demons here to reward this. Get it an 8-drop demon for 2 mana, for instance, would be a really nice payoff, while also drawing cards. And I like the idea here for Sargeras just commanding this, legion of demons, if you will. That is obviously a big time lore and flavor hit, and also, breaking the rules of your deck feels fitting for a character like Sargeras. And then finally here I have Duos the Spellbender from Zincor, a 6 mana 6/6 Warlock legendary. It reads, your starting deck can have from 20 to 40 cards, and your hero's starting health is equal to that amount. And there were a lot of variations of this design actually that showed up. Some people went up to 100, which I think was a little too high for both demanding people have 100 cards that are available, but also 100 health seemed just kind of excessive. But I like this, so this would strike a nice balance here, because if you want to work with extra health, you can. You can run a 10 card deeper deck, which for Warlock might not be crazy. Make sure you don't hit fatigue too soon. You're probably not going to lower your card quality all that much for 40. And if 10 health feels important, hey, that's an option. Alternatively, a lot of people would want a 20 card deck, because that makes your draws really consistent and make sure you're playing out the best deck possible. You're not having to run 10 weaker cards, running your 20 best cards, because of course most games don't go to fatigue. Smaller decks are almost always better in card games. So, but if you do that, you're going to have a risk, because you're only 20 health. You face a burn deck, they just get out ahead of you. You're dead that much sooner at only 20 health. So I really like the mix here, giving you options as long as you're running duos. I thought that was a really cool design, and this one hit kind of the perfect spots numerically, I thought. And there you go, folks. That wraps it up for this custom card review. As always, check the description down below for the submission form for the next video if you want to try out your own custom card design. I honestly don't know the theme yet, so just read the description down there. It'll tell you what kind of card you need to make. But thanks as always for watching. Share your thoughts on these cards in the comments below, and until next time, game on.